All right, gamers, everyone wants to know why I keep farming all these exotics, why I keep stowing all these exotics, why am I going for high mobility and intellect gear. Everyone's confused with the new Edge of Fate changes, and I kind of just wanted to give you a predetermined list on 20 exotics that I think you should farm right now. Even though the double Nightfall loot was this week, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to tough it out these 2 remaining weeks, and you could still get exotics from doing lost sectors. You'll just need to farm the golf balls. The reason why that it's kind of important, let's just say that you want to have a Celestial Nighthawk or a Curus of Falling Star for super damage. Well, you're not going to be able to get mobility intellect in Edge of Fate. So pretty much what this is with this chart that I'm highlighting here, this is what you put on your ghost in Edge of Fate. So currently right now we just put like mobility focused, intellect focused, strength focused, discipline, all that on your ghost mod. Well, in Edge of Fate you'll be able to put Paragon, Grenadier, Specialist, Brawler, Bulwark, and Gunner. Simple, right? Well, if you look at this list, there's certain perk combinations that you can't get. There is weapons and intellect, which is super, and most people are going to be wearing those kind of exotics in the day 1 raid ready to go, because community is calling those exotics illegal because you're pretty much not going to be able to get them, which is kind of weird because people that are grinding now are going to be able to use them in Edge of Fate, but people that start returning Fate that don't have them won't ever have a chance to get them. So I'm kind of confused by that. So that's the easiest way to break this down. All you got to do is look at this list in the latest TWID and be like, all right, I see the perk combinations that I can get on my exotics. Which build do I like using right now that can't get this? I should go farm those. So we're going to go over that list in a second. Another thing is when we come down here and we talk about exotics in this article, people see this stat and they go, oh my God, let me read this. What Bungie's saying here is that they can't make exotics tier 5 like the rest of the gear. I know this is a bozo moment. Your exotics are supposed to mean something in the game, but unfortunately they said this system won't be ready until after the Year of Prophecy, which I don't think it's going to take them a whole year. I think they just put it in here so that they didn't have to like hit a deadline or something, you know? So everything in your vault will be converted 1-to-1 in the new stat. So if you have 20 intellect right now with 30 mobility, it's going to be like that in Edge of Fate. New drops exotic armor will be upgraded to the Armor 3.0 system. This means that their stats will be determined by archetypes, receive the new master working system, and drop with full mod energy by default, which is good. While these drops will not have a specific gear tier, their stats will roll as a tier 2 58 to 63. Now I do want to warn you here, I got baited by this and I saw that and I'm like, 63? Ew. But it's not that bad, because if you come up here, masterworked, it's going to be 78. After you throw the mods on the new exotic 3.0 armor, you're only going to be like a stat or 2. I think it's like 2 stats behind current stuff now, because there's only certain exotics in the game right now that can cap at 69, and only certain exotics can get like a 70 to 71. I forgot which is the list for those, but you know what I'm getting at. Like this isn't as bad as a system as you think. The whole purpose of this farm for exotics right now is to go after stuff that is just really good mobility and really good intellect, so that it juices your builds for the raid, or just to have these exotics to help your stat distribution in your new builds. Don't forget that 801 will give you 20 free exotic armor tickets that you can use to focus new exotics. It's the new stuff and it's not the old. If you're wondering about your exotic class items, they break it down here that everything's just going to be maxed out. This is going to be maxed out juicer stats, only your class items. They're going to have predetermined stats. Kind of a weird system, but we'll get used to it. So now to the list. Clyde's done yapping, so I'm gonna just go over every exotic and tell you why. Here we go. So first up, we're going to start with the Titan. Why should you get a Skull for it? Well, mobility, strength. This whole build is based off of strength, meleeing, and how every build's getting buffed. With melee builds, your weapons are going to be stronger with mobility, and you're going to get strength here. If you want to farm this, you can. If not, it's all good, but try and get the highest mobility strength spike you possibly can. Now we go to one of the most broken exotics in the game, Synthoceps. You want mobility, you want strength. You're going to want weapons and strength, but also, why not get yourself mobility and intellect? Here's why. This super buffs, this exotic also buffs your super damage. You could have a mobility strength for your bonk build, but then also go for a super with melee. But you're probably thinking like, well, Clyde, I don't need that because I can get that in Edge of Fate. You're right. But what if you want to use mobility intellect on this? Like all your other gear has good strength on it. So your strength is sitting pretty good on your Titan. But when you pop your super, you want to have more super damage. Your mobility, strength, Synthoceps aren't really going to help there. So having a second pair with just intellect mobility could help out. But again, very niche. You don't need to, but I just wanted to put it on there. Another melee based exotic. We got Worm Gods on here. We're getting juiced. Worm Gods are going to be broken with how they're getting added more damage. People use a lot of grapple builds with Worm Gods. They use melee builds with it. They use glaives. So I would strictly go for weapons and strength on this build. That's it. Try and get the highest mobility and highest strength you can. With Solar Titan making a return, Pyrogales are definitely on the market now because of, we don't want to sit there and just pop hammers and just throw non-stop hammers at a boss. I mean, it's good and you can use it in certain scenarios, but having Bonk Hammer back and being able to stay on Burning Maul, because you know, it's just a one-off super with Pyrogales on. So you can get a mobility intellect set now. And then if you also want to go with a strength, like get a really high strength one, you can. Mainly, I would just go for the mobility strength on this. And then if you want to get the melee super, like I said, for your Synthoceps, as you see right here, you're going to be able to focus Paragon. So you'll put Paragon on your Ghost and you'll try and pop a few Synthos or your Pyrogales. So Alpha Loopy on this list is kind of weird, I know that, but it is getting a buff. That pulse of healing that it might provide, we're guessing the not swap is going to be on the day one raid, but if it's not, you're going to be able to Thunder Crash with your Curus and then swap to this and pop a barricade for your team in a well. If this does release pulse of healing, even though it's only 20-30 HP, it could save you in the well. So I did want to put it on the list. Get a mobility intellect roll. Call it a day. Peacekeepers, I'll tell you what, dude. Peacekeeper Titan, I uploaded a video a long time ago, and with Borrowed Dyad and other SMGs like Huckleberry, and I wasn't even a fan of the Peacekeeper build. Guess who told me to use it? Grenader Jake. When he visited me, he's like, have you tried Peacekeeper Titan yet? I'm like, nah. He's like, try it on Strand with Huckleberry. I'm like, all right, it was cooking. You can go both ways with this. You can build into a melee with this because maybe you're using your mobility. I always like running this build with a Borrowed Dyad or a Huckleberry in the kinetic slot, and then your energy slot's going to be a 1-2 punch shotgun. So you could go mobility strength on this if you're meleeing a lot, or if you're just like, this is strictly a gun build, mobility intellect all day, because then you'll be able to pop your super and get a little bit more super damage. I don't know about you guys. Peregrine Greaves 1-2 punch jumping shotgun build is back. The last time I used this build was on Scarlet Keeps GM. It's when Peregrine Greaves used to stack with 1-2 punch. You used to jump in the air, shotgun, wham, hit that melee, insta clap a champion, one shot him. Well, Bungie took it away to where it doesn't stack with 1-2 punch anymore, but with the new melee changes, it's coming back. Do not sleep on this. Trust me. Get yourself a good mobility strength. You're in there. Again, if you want to get mobility intellect, you can, but I would focus on weapons and melee. Moving on to the Hunter, we all know that if you don't have a Celestial Nighthawk, you're kind of throwing. You want to go for that impossible roll of 30 mobility, 30 intellect. I haven't came that close yet. I think I've got like a 26. But yeah, Celestial Nighthawk on the Hunter, giving it weapons and intellect for super damage is a no-brainer. So Mask of Bacchus is getting a buff in Edge of Fate, and it's going to work a little different. It's going to be tied to your dodging. You're going to get 10%, up to a 30% buff. You can use arc weapons. You can use stasis weapons. You can use Lord of Wolves. I think this one deserves to be on there simply because just being able to add, additive stack everything and use your build could definitely give you like a fun champion nuking build or something in a GM or something like heavy in crazy combat. So I would spec into weapons and intellect here, or weapons or strength. Liar's Handshake. Well, this is just going to get even better next season because everything works now. Liars actually works with 1-2 punch. Once again, every time I had this build on with a 1-2 punch shotgun, they're like, Clyde, it doesn't work. I'm like, well, sure, the counter punch doesn't work, but shotgun melee still works. But they're finally reverting the changes. So if you wanted to go with mobility strength on this, it would be a good call because your weapon is going to get 15% more damage at 200 mobility, and then get some strength to get your punches up and do more damage. I put Raiden Flux on here because I uploaded a video a long time ago of a Raiden Flux Hunter just absolutely destroying GM. This is a really fun exotic. Your super lasts long. You can go into a GM room and clear out a whole room just with this exotic on. I think it deserves to be on here just because you're going to get 45% more super damage with 200 intellect. So if I was you, go for a mobility intellect roll now. Try and get the highest intellect roll you can because this thing will cook. Blighted Ranger did not make the list. Orpheus Rig can never go wrong. This used to dominate in a onslaught. I used to run this in onslaught all the time and just chain tethers every round. This also could be used good in a day one raid, depending on if you're on a tether build and you just need to keep chaining it. But again, you're not going to be able to get a mobility intellect roll in Edge of Fate. So if you do have some free time, I would definitely put that on the list. Then finally, Star Eaters. since you might not be using a exotic class item and you might be using a different subclass, you might as well have Star Eater scales on your hunter to get that bonus damage for your super, but also get mobility intellect roll, because again, can't get it. Last up, Warlocks speaker sight. Duh, most of you will be on this for your day one raid. You definitely want to have a mobility intellect roll because it's going to give you more weapon damage and it's going to give you more intellect for your super to charge up. You can have another discipline roll for a different exotic, or your other 4 pieces that you have on could have high discipline. Again, it's a very popular Warlock exotic. You might as well get the mobility intellect roll. So Starfire Protocol, you're going to be able to get a weapons and discipline roll in Edge of Fate because it's right here. This is going to be the gunner stat, the weapons and grenade, simply because when you have this exotic on, you're just going to be shooting your guns and spamming your grenades. But if you wanted to get a head start now, maybe get a mobility discipline roll, maybe a 28 masterwork, and it'll be 30. I got a feeling that this exotic is going to make a return, so you should definitely take advantage of trying to get one now. Everybody thinks Sanguine's dead. I don't think so. I think people are still going to use it. It depends if Not Swap's going to be activated in the day one raid, but Sanguine is still very strong for a Warlock to use. Just because they put a 10-second cooldown doesn't mean anything. I can give you a perfect example in a day one raid. If Not Swap is activated, your Warlock can stay alive. They can just run this the whole encounter. Then when it comes down to drop that well and do damage, that Warlock's gonna fry. Phoenix Protocol, this is just really good to get your well back non-stop. You get a mobility intellect roll now, you're good to go. Are you gonna use this stuff? Now you're probably asking me like, why are you putting these exotics for the Warlock on here and telling us to get intellect? Well, again, you just can't get them in Edge of Fate. You only need 100 intellect on these builds because you're just getting improved super energy gain from damaging targets. It does not change the base cooldown of your super, but it does improve the amount of super energy gain from external sources and super regen and other sources. The only thing you get over 100 on a Warlock is the super damage. Now, currently in the game, Limit Break does work. You get a 30% bonus damage to your super when you pop your well. Everyone's like, Clyde, what if well scales with intellect? Well, if that's the case, then we're all going to be on Warlocks for the day one raid and get 45% more weapon damage and destroy it. I don't think Bungie's going to let that happen. So when you're playing into like Phoenix Protocol stuff, get your well back, you don't have to get that mobility intellect. You're just choosing to get it because, again, you're just trying to get it now because you can't get it down the road. But if you want to get it with mobility discipline, go for it. Just go for a high spike now. Lastly, Geomags. I did see it on the featured exotic list for Edge of Fate for the Warlocks. Geomags does fry now. I don't know how much we'll use it down the road, but if you get a mobility intellect roll now, it could be really good for getting your super back and weapon damage. Now, I know I left out some exotics and you guys are like, what about this? What about War Rig? What about Fellwinners? What about all this other stuff? Again, we can't tell people to farm 30, 40 exotics before Edge of Fate. Currently, I got the list at 19, 20. I feel like that's fair. That's just, I don't want people to turn on Edge of Fate and be like, man, why didn't I go get that Purus with, you know, a 25 plus spike on mobility and intellect? Why didn't I do that? Everybody else has it. You know, like that's kind of like how the community is. And that's why I think Bungie's playing with fire. I'm going to try my best to avoid using these exotics after the day one raid because I'm going to be making a lot of build guides and I don't want to be like, hey guys, use an exotic that you don't have. Oh, you don't have a high mobility, high intellect Purus from last season? Well, get screwed. I'm going to try and use the new stat exotics to incorporate in all my builds so everybody can use that. Hopefully, me just going over these simple exotics and just telling you what to prep before Edge of Fate gives you a kind of an idea of what I've been farming. And thanks for all the support on the videos. Don't forget to sub. I'll see you guys next time.